Catus, Maximus here. This time talking about the Performance Tool recessed Torx brake caliper bolt sockets. These are kind of an interesting idea from Performance Tool. These have been on the shelf for a while. We know that by this box design, actually from copyright's 1999. Ford's used these quite a bit. These aren't any different from regular star sockets, but the idea is different. Many times, or I should say, and specifically Fords, but not just Fords. There are several situations where I've seen that they have button head Torx screws. So they're just like socket head cap screws like these, except for they're driven by these Torx star. They are inset and then inside a socket because they're a button head. And so the idea of this is it would fit over the Torx. I don't have one of those particular fasteners, but it kind of acts like a socket where you have the outer housing. And so you can put a little bit more torque on it, and it kind of wants to bind up on the head of the fastener. And the reason that's an issue is with regular Torx, they fit pretty good, but they're never a super tight fit. Not like a socket head cap screw with a nice hex bolt or a nice socket and bolt fitment. They're always a bit loose, and so a lot of the issues and the reason people do break these is because they put them in there, and then when they're torquing them, they're putting a lot of sideways pressure, so that either strips out the socket, damages the fastener, makes it harder for you to remove the fastener because now you're applying forces trying to bend it rather than actually torque and twist it. Just due to the nature that this type of design doesn't seat in the fastener like a six-sided design does. This might be a better example, but when you have a bunch of torque, these do have a little bit of a loose fit. This is a barely worn fastener and a really nice bit, and so their solution here with Performance Tool was to simply recess them so that it acts like a socket and gives you more support, so you can apply more force. I guess the one criticism, two criticisms, even three: laser etch, no roll stamping. They didn't do any little undercuts for the 3/8 drives, and they're solid. So if you do end up breaking one of these bits, which are just press fit into a specialized socket, you can't press it out. You'd have to drill a hole through the socket in order to press out the bit. But I guess the idea is that you're less likely to break these. I'm sure somewhere online there's some company that makes a whole set of these, but I thought it was an interesting idea, and kind of would like to have a set of these. These are just the most common larger sizes: T40, T45, and a T50. I don't know why the T40 is like a carbon finish and the other two aren't. But for Performance Tool products have always been, decent, but they've always been price competitive, that's for sure. And we can see that here, like this one. We can see if we rotate this around how it's not exactly centered in the body of the forging, but still, thought they were a neat idea. They are interesting looking sockets because you just have a Torx that's almost flush with the head of the socket, and people think, well, how on earth are you going to remove a fastener? Because they're always thinking of fasteners kind of like this. No, they're specifically for socket head Torx drive screws, and thought they were pretty cool looking specialized fastener. And I understand why they advertise these for Ford brake calipers, because the brake caliper bolts can be pretty well seized up, and so probably had quite a few issues with Torx braking. So this was their solution. I think it's actually a pretty decent one. Kind of an innovative approach, and so I do appreciate that. The other thing I will say is, since they are solid through, these sockets for small sockets are darn heavy, because with the bit pressed into it, there's only a little gap there and a gap for the 3/8 drive, but quite literally, there's the broach where the bit is sitting in here, but it's basically solid steel all the way through. So even though there's 3 sockets, they do have a satisfying amount of weight to them. So anyway, that was my short little review of these Performance Tool recessed Torx sockets, and I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.